Elon Musk, these days, he makes the headlines of big media in the world because why? Because, oh, sorry. Okay. Can you hear me now? Elon Musk, what does Elon Musk has to do with my speech today? These last days, there is a lot about him, about Twitter in the headlines on different media, because first of all, it is about data. The way that data are used, misused by Twitter, but also from my perspective, as someone who is working for the Council of Europe, who promotes human rights and social rights in particular, it is about how people at Twitter, the employees of Twitter, have been treated lately. Meaning that their new boss is asking them to work in a different, much more dehumanized way, and this is where my talk is coming in. So, Amos Tversky is one of the fathers of behavioral economics, and when we talk about artificial intelligence nowadays, although this is a sentence that comes from the 70s, I think that it's very much actual for our today's world. Because when you talk about artificial intelligence, again, data collection, there is also about going on about people's minds, people's emotions, and not at last but not least, natural stupidity. So in a way, Musk, data, plus natural stupidity, I think that we're getting pretty much in the same direction. So, apart being the head of the Council of Europe office here in Georgia, I have started several years ago getting interested in behavioral science, and I completed a master's degree, and I'm very lucky to be able to promote fight against discrimination, fight against sexual violence in this part of the world. And I got really very interested to this notion about weird people. Weird people are Western, industrialized, educated, rich, and developed societies, which constitutes roughly 12% of the world's population. Yet, 96% of the social studies, in particular in the field of behavioral studies, are done with this 12%, and the outcomes are claimed to be universal. So my aim is to work in these non-weird societies, which are the societies of this part of the world, in order to promote social findings, social sciences, and actually to increase the data about non-weird people. So, for me, discrimination is a kind of natural stupidity. And that brings me back to what Amos Tversky has said. And again, that's why I got really very much interested in this kind of way, why people get discriminated. Discrimination about women, discrimination about people with LGBT background, people from low socioeconomic status, people with disabilities, representatives of national and religious minorities. So context matters. This is one of the principles of social sciences, and in particular behavioral science, which I would like to talk about today. Context matters in different ways. So what I'm trying to do is to carry research, to carry randomized control trials, in particular in the area of fight against discrimination, through applied theater, where I use questionnaires, pre and post, in order to see how applied theater can actually tackle different ways of discrimination. So what I use is what is called vignettes, which is actual scenarios which has to be designed within the social context of your study, in order to do what? In order to explore emotions and try to measure, this is what is really difficult to measure with hard data, people's emotions. How people's emotions evolve, what can influence them, how they can be different, how we can change people's emotions. So I conducted a study about 2 or 3 years ago in Armenia with female students, and I had designed several questions, and one of the questions I would like to show you today is to show you actually how biases, how our own background, experience, influence in the way that the questions are designed. So here is the question. It is a question about individual choice. It is a question that probably most of women and men come across in their lives. And I would like to show you that this is how one answers this question depends to some extent of the context. Why? Because in what is called collectivistic societies are the societies, Georgian society, Armenian societies, Bulgarian society in this part of the world, where actually the individuals, even if they have the feeling that they make their own individual choices, they are very much influenced by the society. Because as an individual, in this kind of setups, you are, first of all, the daughter of someone, the wife of someone, the granddaughter of someone, or the son, the husband. So pretty much the society influences how you have to behave. As opposed to individualistic societies, for instance, the Society of the United States of America or Norwegian society, where the individual choice is much more defined. So when we designed the questionnaire, which was made out of 13 questions, I mean, we ran the questions, we really thought through them, and I had all my colleagues in the Council of Europe office, and because we think in the same way, we are in a way biased in the positive sense of this word towards human rights, towards individual choices. We had also to design the negative and the positive, the wrong and the right answers, according to which you're going to measure the results of your poll. So everything went okay. We conducted the randomized control trial. We had the data. We cleaned the data. Everything was set up. And then one of the colleagues I was working with, he called me and he said, you know, everything seems to be okay, but there is one question where we have a problem. We have 80% of wrong answers, which should not be the case. And actually, to this question, my quote-unquote right answer was, it is her individual choice whether to have children or not. Whereas for my respondents in Armenia, actually that was the wrong question. So I learned a lot from that, because I thought that I have been living in this part of the world for many years, that I knew the context very well. I could interact with people. I had many friends, colleagues here, but still my ingrained bias really worked on that. The other interesting aspect of this study that we conducted is that in the what are called demographic questions, meaning that what you fill out, for instance, in terms of age, gender, occupation, marital status. We had, on the marital status, we had the possibility not to answer. And actually, we ended up with overwhelming, I would say overwhelming figures, where like in the control group, we had almost 40% of the respondents who refused to respond. In control group 1, we had about 32%, and in control group 2, we had about 27% of these female students who refused to disclose their marital status. So we looked at that, and we decided that probably the logical explanation is that they were quote-unquote secretly dating someone, but they didn't want this to be known because probably their parents or their families or their friends would disapprove their relationship, so they preferred to hide it. Once again, that brought us again back to the individual choice in this context, that actually the collectivistic influence can be very strong on that. So I will stop here, and I would like also to say that when you design this kind of questionnaires, when you play with the data at some point, please keep in mind this saying by one of the prominent statisticians of the 20th century, who says that when data are tortured enough, they would confess to anything. So this is to say that data are very important in social sciences, but when you deal with data, you have to be utterly ethical. You have to make sure that scientific methods are actually used in order to be sure that these 12% do not remain the universal part, but that you are actually expanding the scientific knowledge. Thank you.